They're right here. Sorry, I just need to sorry, more people coming just joining, so I just want to make sure I get everybody in here. And now I need to figure out how to do this, and I can't figure it out. All right. Thank you for joining, everybody. I'm just oh, here we go. There we go. Having trouble figuring out how to change the person who's in the. Why can't I figure this out? All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fresh Off the Press, the Gloss Book Club Spring Publisher Preview. I'm Erin Woodward, founder of the Gloss Book Club, and I'm so excited to have you all here tonight. For those of you who are new to us, and we do have new people joining us tonight, the Gloss Book Club is a global community of passionate, enthusiastic readers who live for that feeling of cracking open a book you cannot put down. We read across all genres. We love discovering new voices. And honestly, we never say no to a good ARC. ARC, Advanced Reader Copy, for those of you who don't know. Tonight is one of my favorite kinds of evenings because we get to be the first to hear about what's coming. Our publishing partners are here to give us a look at some of their most anticipated upcoming titles. And I know our community is going to be excited about what's ahead. Here's how the night will go. So each publisher or PR company will have 15 minutes to walk us through their spring list. After all the presentations, we'll close out with a book giveaway. So stick around because you might be walking away with something wonderful tonight. We have a fantastic lineup. You'll be hearing from Simon and Schuster, HTP Books, Get Read PR, Grand Central Publishing, and Penguin, Hogarth, and Random House. I'm so grateful to each of these wonderful humans for being here with us tonight and for sharing their titles with our readers first. All right, let's get to it. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first presenter from Simon and Schuster. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Erin and the Gloss team, for inviting Simon and Schuster Canada to participate tonight. And thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy days. My name is Lisa Ray, and I'm the Director of Publicity, and I'm so excited to share 8 of our most anticipated, recently released, and upcoming titles. First, I'm sharing Theo of Golden, which is one of those very special books. It sits alongside authors like Frederick Bachman or Matt Haig. It's very heart forward, very reflective. And what's amazing is that Alan Levy originally published this himself. It sold over 150,000 copies, which is when we were able to bring him on board to SNS. And now it's surpassed 1 million copies across North America, which is kind of incredible. And this has all been since just this past November, December. This story follows this quiet man who arrives in a small town and slowly builds connections with people. And one of the ways he does that is by finding old portraits of locals in cafes and returning them to their owners. Through that, he changes people's lives in these small but really meaningful ways. It's a book about community, connection, and the impact we can have on each other without realizing it. It's really beautiful, and it's one that tends to stay with you after they finish it. Lots of great conversations have come out of reading this book with other book clubs. Next, I'm going to jump into Is This a Cry for Help by Emily Austen. Some of you might already know Emily from Everyone in This Room Might Be Dead or some of her other backlist titles that are shown here on the right side of the screen. She's really carved out a space for herself in what we call the quirky queer lit or sad girl fiction, but in the best way. It's funny, it's self-aware, it's deeply emotional. And in this book, we follow Darcy, a librarian who's returning to work after a mental health leave following her ex-boyfriend's death. And while she's trying to get her footing again, she's also dealing with protests at the library, people calling for book bans, accusing the library of being a depraved space. So it becomes this really interesting mix of personal grief and recovery alongside a very current conversation around censorship and what libraries represent to all of us. It's funny, it's tender, but it's also a love letter to libraries. Emily herself used to be a librarian. She has her degree in library sciences. So there's real authenticity here. And again, this book is really tapping into a very real moment for libraries, how they've become these frontline community spaces dealing with everything from censorship debates to broader social issues. And Emily brings that reality into the story with a lot of nuance and care. It was also the Canadian Independent Booksellers Association top pick for winter 2026 this year. So thank you all, indie Canadian booksellers. This next one is our forefront literary debut that came out this year, but it also hits that sweet spot of literary and commercial. Wild People Quiet by Tara Giroux is from our Scribner Canada imprint, which publishes some of the most important authors of our time. It's set in rural Saskatchewan in the 1940s, and it follows a Métis woman who has built her career and her life around passing as white. It's received wonderful media and event momentum. A cross-country tour just happened, and we're expecting invitations to all the major fall festivals in Canada. Tara Giroux is a citizen of the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan herself, and While People Quiet marks her breakout moment. We loved it so much at SNS, that we preempted it before any publisher could make an offer. It was that powerful. Her writing is squarely in that spot, as I was saying, between literary and commercial, and readers who loved The Berry Pickers or The Vanishing Half will feel themselves right at home. What's really beautiful here, and you're going to have to lean in a bit to see the cover, but on the cover, it's original beadwork from a Saskatchewan-born Métis artist named Catherine Boyer. And the title of the book is drawn from a remark made by John A. Macdonald, who was the first Prime Minister of Canada, who said that as the prairies were entering Confederation, he told one of his lieutenant governors that he could anticipate a great deal of trouble to keep those wild people quiet, in reference to the Indigenous peoples of the territory. So this book explores reconciliation in a way that feels urgent right now, and it offers that propulsive great book club conversation starter novel. We're really positioning Tara as one of the country's most exciting emerging voices. This next one is truly a global phenomenon. It has simultaneous priority launches across the world with SNS globally. It's the kind of impressive novel that reminds you of why you fell in love with reading in the first place. Homebound is a sweeping, time-spanning novel that connects five lives across centuries and galaxies. It's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow meets Station 11. It's a book about creativity and queerness. Portia, the main character is, or sorry, the author is remarkable. She's studied in Victoria, BC, and has strong Canadian ties. She's also a librarian by trade and one of those instantly engaging speakers who just lights up a room. And Homebound came out of Frankfurt Book Festival as one of the hottest books of the fair, and she's being championed by most important people in publishing as the next best thing. And you can see a Kirkus starred review down here. So lots to come in the next few months for Homebound. And this next one from Lisa Jewell is an author that I'm sure most of you know. She's one of those who just consistently delivers really addictive, can't put it down thrillers. This latest of hers, It Could Have Been Her, starts with a lost dog, which feels very innocent, but it quickly turns into something much darker. It's about a missing woman, a very creepy house in Hampstead, and a growing sense that something is seriously off. And what Lisa does so well is she takes these ordinary domestic settings and slowly peels back behind what's happening behind those closed doors. It's very much in the vein of Then She Was Gone or The Family Upstairs. So if you and your club love twisty, character-driven suspense, you're gonna constantly second guess this one. It's a really satisfying read. Now, just taking a peek around the corner, we just couldn't resist by putting a few of our fall titles on the list that are going to be breakouts. This one is called The Barman of the Ritz. It was a massive bestseller in France and is now finally available in English for the first time. It's based on the true story, which makes it even more compelling. It's set in Paris during the Nazi occupation of the Ritz Hotel, which stayed open and became this surreal, glittering space where Nazi officers and their families and figures like Hemingway and Chanel all continued to gather. At its center is Frank Meyer, the hotel's bartender who's secretly Jewish. So every night he's serving the very people who would have him killed if they only knew who he was. And while quietly trying to protect others and navigate impossible moral choices. So as I said, this book is based on the true bartender who survived during that time, Frank Meyer. He published one of the very first cocktail books ever in the world, apparently encouraged by Hemingway and Fitzgerald, his regular bar visitors. And he's known for creating some of the most recognizable cocktails that we still drink today. This cover is actually the UK version, which ours is going to mimic, and this is a real photo of him behind the bar. Of course, we had to share this one with the book club. We're so excited that Bonnie Garmus's follow-up to Lessons in Chemistry, which I know so many people loved. It was such a huge cultural moment. We've all been waiting and waiting for her next release, and this book, Peck and Peck, has the same mix of humor, heart, and really sharp conversation. This time in her book, we're in the world of poetry, which might sound niche, but it's actually incredibly fun. We follow Batter, a young man in New York ends up working at a very prestigious, very secretive, and honestly kind of dysfunctional poetry journal. And through that, the book becomes this really interesting look at creativity and ambition and who gets to decide what counts as important in the literary world. It's quirky, it's thoughtful and character driven. And like her first book, it sneaks in these really big questions that she asks the reader, like things about identity and purpose and how we find meaning in our work and our lives. And of course, there's a great dog as a main character, which harken backs to her debut. This is going to be a really big tour. She's going to tour all across the globe and lots of media to come. And the final one I just wanted to share because we're so excited that Lucky by Marissa Stapley, which is Canada's only Reese Book Club pick still to this date, is coming out as an Apple TV series starring Anya Taylor-Joy in July. So we're very excited for this. And if you don't know about Lucky, it follows a professional grifter who's just pulled off a big heist and is about to start a new life when everything falls apart. It's really fast-paced and fun, but it's a lot of heart. It's about identity, redemption, and what it means to choose a different life when you've been shaped by the wrong one. It's a really great pick, and we're going to have lots of buzz going on for it over the next few months. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time today, and I'll pass it over to the next presenter.
So awesome. Thank you. So many titles that I'm going to actually email you after and ask which ones you have available. Um, so Randy, are you ready? You're up.
I'm ready. You can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Wonderful. So hi, everyone. My name is Randy Chan, and I'm the marketing director for HTP Books. And HTP stands for Harlequin Trade Publishing. And all that means is that our company, Harlequin, is divided into two divisions. One is the romance division, the traditional Harlequin titles, which includes Heated Rivalry. And the other division is the trade division, which are books in every other category except romance. So we publish on the trade side, romantasy, literary fiction, thrillers, and even nonfiction. And I used to do a lot of these types of events with Erin and Valerie, so I've crossed paths with some of you along the way. And I know the Gloss loves thrillers, so I'm starting off with one of the OG masters of thrillers. I'm just going to advance this slide here. It's Served Him Right by Lisa Unger. And Served Him Right starts off with a brunch. A group of girlfriends gather to celebrate Anna's breakup with her toxic boyfriend, Paul. But after the brunch, everyone learns that Paul is dead. And not only that, but Anna's best friend falls deathly ill from the brunch. And all eyes are on Anna, but nothing is as it seems. This is a layered thriller. There are themes of the Me Too movement, of vengeance, of a network of women seeking justice. And I promise you, you think you will know how this book ends, but don't even try to guess because it's not what you think. If you love Mary Kubica or Karen Slaughter or Lucy Foley, you will love Lisa Unger. I'm moving on to Kylie Lee Baker. Um, Kylie is a superstar in the making. She came out with a book last year. It was an incendiary novel called Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. And it was both an Indie Next pick and a Library Reads pick, which in the US means that it was anointed by booksellers and librarians across the country as one of their favorite reads. And it was also nominated for a Goodreads Reader's Choice Award for favorite horror novel. And now her follow up is Japanese Gothic. It's a haunted house story rich with Japanese mythology, samurai history, and contemporary horror elements. And all I'll say is that it's a dual timeline, dual narrator story about two people living centuries apart. One of these people is a ghost, and one of these stories is a lie. Um, my next book is Matcha on Monday by Michiko Aoyama. I'm sure many of you have seen in the bookstores and perhaps have fallen in love with this trend that we call cozy fiction or healing fiction. And these are novels involving oftentimes cats. They're books about books and bookstores and libraries. And reading these books is like a balm. They're good for your soul. And the biggest sellers in this category are from Japan. And the biggest example would be Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which is a series that we published that's now sold over 1.5 million copies in North America. And you might have heard of this other bestseller. It was called What You're Looking For Is in the Library by this author, Michiko Aoyama. It was about a librarian in Tokyo who recommends the perfect books for her patrons, depending on what they're going through in life. So now we have Matcha on Monday, and the setting is a cafe, open only on Mondays. And every Monday, people from all walks of life come in. There's a singer who has just broken up with his lover. There's a husband who has made his wife very angry. There's an artist who doesn't get along with their grandmother. And so the book covers a year in the life of this cafe, where we get to know these characters and what they're going through. And they are delightful stories that will make you want to read along with a cup of matcha. The next book on the list is The Storykeeper by Kelly Rimmer. And this is an Australian writer who also owns a bookstore. And she's an incredible person. She wrote a novel in 2019 called The Things We Cannot Say that sold 1 million copies and is regarded as one of the best in the field of World War II fiction. Reviewers often compare her to Jodi Picoult and Kristen Hanna. And The Storykeeper, with this most gorgeous cover, is about a woman renovating her family's manor home, and she comes across a misplaced novel in the library. When she starts to read the book, she's transported to a story that happened 50 years ago. But the story feels familiar to her because it's a story that mirrors her own life. And it's about the mystery of a missing couple that was thought to be unsolvable until now. This is a very intricately plotted book. There is a book within a book plot in the story. And one reviewer on Goodreads said this novel broke her. She said she loved the emotional layers and the mysteries that get unraveled. So I hope you love it too. And On to the Wild Beneath by Kelly Anderson. And books like this are seriously why I love working in publishing. It is a chance to get behind a debut author and to launch a book from scratch. So here's a primer. This book came to us from super agent Maddie Milbourne, who is one of the most renowned literary agents in the world. And she said that she had never received more interest for a debut manuscript than this one. And The Wild Beneath eventually sold in 12 countries, and we preempted this successfully. So in publishing, a preempt refers to when a publisher loves a manuscript so much, they will make a massive offer with a huge publishing plan. and effectively takes the book off the table and blocks any other publisher from trying to publish it. And that's what we did for The Wild Beneath. I'll say that The Wild Beneath is beautiful, it's poetic, it's weird, it's unique, it's mysterious, alluring, and has an epic love story at its center. There are scenes about nature that will take your breath away. The very first page describes a tsunami, and I got physical goosebumps reading it. Some of the comparisons are Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey, and also The Paper Palace. And when we sent the advanced reading copies out into the world to booksellers, this is what we got back. Mary O'Malley from Skylark Books said, "I didn't just read this book, every page vibrated." And the author, Jodi Picoult, she went out of her way to submit this quote to us. She said, "Anderson's book is ethereal, languid, crafted of language that rushes and recedes like a tide." I mean, even these blurbs are like poetry. So, why all the buzz? The Wild Beneath is about Annie, a woman who grew up by the ocean, and she's more comfortable around sea creatures and the stars than she is with people. But when a tsunami shatters her world, Annie is stranded on land alongside a man who washes up on shore, and the man doesn't speak. Between them, a bond is forged. But what about Annie's boyfriend, Evan? This is about nature, love, a love triangle. It's so wonderful. For all the Canadians attending tonight, this author is from Guelph, and she's about to enter the international stage with this publication. Kelly Anderson is a doctor by day. She has treated over 70,000 patients. And she told us that she likes to write to stay in touch with herself and with nature. And so clearly, I can't say enough good things about The Wild Beneath. Remember this book because it's going to be a big deal. Moving on to The Iron Hex by Victoria S. Walsh. This is also a Canadian writer. She's from Kitchener, and some of you may follow her on social media. She has 1.3 million followers on TikTok and Instagram, and she talks about fashion and books and self-love. And this is the debut of a romantasy series about a witch who can't remember her past, and it's about a handsome rogue knight who seems to know secrets about her that even she doesn't recall. And he believes her to be the key to finding what he seeks. I had a chance to spend time with Victoria recently at a book event, and she's just a really smart and talented person. And I'll just say also that people who built their fame on social media as influencers, they are storytellers because their entire MO, their entire approach to their career is how to post content online that is meaningful and that will resonate with people. And she's incredible at it. And my final two books are by Audrey Niffenegger. I'm hoping everyone here is familiar with The Time Traveler's Wife. It was first published in 2003. That's 23 years ago now. It was a number one, exactly, number one New York Times bestseller in hardcover and paperback, 9 million copies sold in North America and the UK. There was a movie in 2009, which is now 17 years ago, starring Rachel McAdams and Eric Bana. And in 2022, there was an HBO series as well. And actually, some of my colleagues say the HBO show is even better than the movie. So we know readers, in fact, one of my colleagues named their son Henry in homage to The Time Traveler's Wife. And I think what's even more exciting is how the book has stayed top of mind. So to this day, there are dozens of Reddit threads discussing the book. To this day, there are 15,000 Goodreads users currently reading this book today. In January, Goodreads did a reader poll of what books do you wish you could read again for the first time? And The Time Traveler's Wife was at the top, alongside modern classics like The Kite Runner and The Night Circus. And then, earlier this month, it was announced that one of Audrey Niffenegger's other books, It's called The Three Incestuous Sisters, will be made into a movie. And the movie stars Saoirse Ronan, Jessie Buckley, and Dakota Johnson playing the three sisters. So, I mean, that sounds like a future Oscar winner right there. And my point to all of this is that The Time Traveler's Wife and Audrey Niffenegger are never far from the zeitgeist. It's just one of the desert island books for a lot of readers. So HTP acquired the rights to The Time Traveler's Wife, and we are issuing a collector's edition into the US market. The cover that you see here is not the final cover. It's really what England used for one of their editions. Our cover will be new and different. There will be foil, there will be sprayed edges, beautiful end papers, and a Q&A with Audrey at the back of the book. Which brings me to my final book, which is this. It is Life Out of Order, and it is the sequel to The Time Traveler's Wife, which follows the time traveler's daughter. So Alba is just like her father, Henry. She is a rebellious, unpredictable time traveler. But while Henry mainly traveled to the past, Alba time travels into the future. And there are two men Alba loves most, her loyal husband, as well as a fellow time traveler who changes everything she knows about her past. Life Out of Order is about the power of art, music, and culture to outlast technology. And fans of Time Traveler's Wife will find lots of Easter eggs and familiar faces from the first book, but it also works perfectly as a standalone. You could just read it on its own. Audrey is the original in time travel fiction, and the category really has never been more popular. Again, the cover you see on screen is just a placeholder, but on April 15, we have a global cover reveal planned, so you'll see it all over social media and online very soon. It's stunning. Audrey, who herself is an artist, demanded that we use the very same book cover designer that designed The Time Traveler's Wife, the original one. So this is definitely one of the most anticipated novels of the year. I had a chance to reread The Time Traveler's Wife and to read Life Out of Order back to back over the holidays, and together they stand as modern classics. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you've been introduced to your next favorite read. Good night, everyone, and thanks to the Gloss.
Thank you, Randy. I can't believe that The Time Traveler's Wife was written so long ago.
It's incredible. Thank you.
Up next, Anne Marie. Anne Marie is from a PR agency, and we have never had a PR agency, but who knows more about books than a PR agency doing daily promotion on them? So, Anne Marie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Erin and Vanessa. Um, yeah, I run Get Read PR with Lori Edelman, who's online at another apartment in New York City right now. She's going to share screens because I can't do two things at once. Um, so we represent a variety of titles in fiction and nonfiction space, but I'm going to talk about some fiction titles coming up. These are some of the ones that are kind of the best book club picks and coming up between April and September. So I want to start off with, let's see, Lori, let's start. That's Lori's cat. I'd love to start off with The Model Patient by Lucy Ash. I'll give her a minute. So Lucy Ash broke onto the scene with sort of this moody historical called Dance of the Dolls. Lucy is it was a professional ballerina. And so all of her books took place in the world of ballet. And this is her first psychological thriller coming out. It's a seductive setting, 1960s London. So if you love a character-driven, slow burn psychological thriller, this is a great one for you. Let me give you a bit of a rundown. So Evelyn is a woman who's given up her successful career as a model to marry and, welcome motherhood, but she's feeling suffocated by this life, and she's having these recurring nightmares. So enter her therapist, Dr. Daly. And as Evelyn's sessions with Dr. Daly unearth more questions than answers, her interest in him turns into an obsession. So is her therapist finally providing the care she needs, or is she being manipulated? So, a lot of the Goodreads reviewers were saying that this book was driving them crazy. It's this slow burn, and then the twists start coming. But all of Lucy's books are just sort of dark and atmospheric and take place in London. And this is her debut psychological thriller. So, next book up is by Sarah Goodman Confino. She is a funny lady, and this book called Off the Record is takes place in the world in the newsroom. The world of journalism is close to Sarah Goodman Confino. She taught journalism for very many years, and she dedicated this to her teacher, her journalism teacher. So this is coming June 9th from Lake Union. And I like to say that Sarah is at the cross of women's fiction and historical fiction. So if you love Jennifer Weiner, Beth O'Leary, this is perfect. And what Sarah likes to say is that Off the Record is a half Jewish rom-com, a Cold War spy thriller, and a newsroom drama. So, DC 1962, when Judy Greenberg, a young Jewish secretary with reporter-sized dreams, intercepts a cryptic call in a Russian accent. She grabs her shot at a Cold War scoop. She's juggling spies, a fake boyfriend, and her mother's marriage plans while trying to prove she wants a byline and not a bridal registry. So if you've read any of Sarah's books before, you know that she loves the multi-generational dynamics, a little bit of the old with the young. And if one of my favorite books ever written by her is called Don't Forget to Write. So something else to check out. The third book I want to talk about tonight is by a rising star in historical fiction. She's also a Nantucket writer, so all of her stuff, very New England stories. This is Julie Gerstenblatt, and I'm sure, Randy, this is a book you're familiar with because it's from Park Row. So this comes out June 9th. Um, all of Julie's books are like meticulously researched. This is a coming of age tale and a seafaring adventure. So Massachusetts, 1851, when an 18-year-old Nantucket girl, Winifred Starbuck, yes, the Starbuck family, stows away on her renowned parents' final merchant to China. She is thrust into treachery, danger, and discovery on the high seas, uncovering a family's secret that will test her courage and redefine her future. So, a fun fact about this is Julie gave her son, who's a recent film school graduate, and his best friend a working copy of her manuscript, and they helped her make it more cinematic. So you have rich, rich historical fiction, rich historical fiction. It's partially based on this boat called the Flying Cloud that set world speed records. Um, and it's in this sort of epic, cinematic, seafaring tale. I devoured it. She had a cover reveal in People, and I can't wait for everyone to read this book. And she will be at the Nantucket Book Festival for any of you who head there in the summer. So we have a romance, and I'll tell you why this is a great book club pick. So, To Catch a Sinner is by Dylan Allen. Dylan Allen is her romance pen name. And if you know any of her romance books, you know there's like high drama, but love always wins at the end. So she is writing this book under her real name, Lucy Wilson to Go. This book, its characters highlights her Ghanaian roots. She's a first generation American, and the characters are first generation Americans. Tropes for romance readers. It's a will they or won't they? And some of the themes aren't being repatriated and reclaimed. And as I said earlier, first generation American. So this is definitely a steamy one. It also takes place, it's also a story about journalists and in the DC area. So, this steamy, suspenseful friends to lovers Black romance between a relentless journalist and a mysterious lawyer with a complicated shared past. It's set against a fictionalized Washington, D.C. It's fast paced, high stakes, and explores reclaiming identity, challenging power, and the pursuit of the new American dream. So, our final book is called In This Life or Another. It's coming September 8th from Lake Union. This is Melissa Payne's seventh novel. But it's perfect for fans of The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And one of Melissa's recurring themes is second chances and redemption. And most of her books take place in small mountain towns. She lives in Colorado. So this one I'm particularly fond of. One of my absolute um, favorite books is called The Wild Road Home. So it's another one to check out that she released maybe about 3 years ago. So let me give you the rundown about In This Life or Another. When Rusty Wilson's extraordinary act lands him in a realm beyond time, he's forced to revisit the moments that defined and derailed his life, discovering that the true measure of life may rest not in perfection, but in acceptance. Um, this book is going to make you cry, I'm not going to lie, as most of Melissa's books do, and it will stay with you for a very long time. So, that's it from me today. Thank you for having me. And Lori is going to drop a little link, the Google form in the chat. Um, we'd love to know more about the Gloss Book Club members. And if you're interested in any more of our 2026 titles, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for having me.
I just looked up The Wild Road Home, Anne Marie, and it has a
Yeah,
4.43 rating on Goodread, which is wildly high. And I've never
yeah,
even heard of
yeah.
her. So
It's so good. It's so good.
clearly something I need to check out. Thank you
I
so
will
much
make
for
sure you
joining
get a
us.
copy.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Next up, we have Grand Central Publishing, Alexis, who we do a lot of work with. Welcome, Alexis, and thank you so much for joining us. Tell us all the things.
Will do. Thank you for the intro, Aaron. We do a lot with you guys. We love the Gloss audience. My name is Alexis Gilbert. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out sharing here. There we go. Yes, I'm Alexis. So I am a director in the marketing department at Grand Central Publishing. And we have 5 books that we want to share with you today. The first one up here on the screen is a novel called Skin Contact. This is a debut novel from Alyssa Faison, being published by our Cardinal imprint, which is our newest imprint at Grand Central Publishing. And it focuses on what I describe as boutique fiction. It's headed by someone I think it's fair to say is a legendary editor, Reagan Arthur. And Cardinal's focus is definitely literary fiction, but also story collections, some mystery and suspense, really great lists. Cardinal actually published the Reese's Book Club pick, The Heir Apparent, recently, for those of you who know that or read that. Also, the just released novel, The Golden Boy. So Cardinal, it's a great list. It's always going to have really fascinating books for you guys, and should definitely be on your radar. So with Skin Contact, this book follows a young married couple, Ben and Frances, and Frances's mother has recently passed away, and the novel opens with her struggling with that loss, navigating her grief, and one day she suggests to Ben that they open their marriage. And he agrees to it. He's open to it as well. So we're following along as they explore their marriage, as they explore their sexuality, and all of the complexities that come along with that. But it's a beautifully written novel. Elisa's writing is very sharp. She's super funny on the page, and it's great for you if you're a fan of authors like Sally Rooney or Coco Malors. You can see some other books that you might like here on the slide, but you should definitely give this one a try. Obviously, polyamory and open marriages are very much in the zeitgeist right now. So this is one to try. This comes out on June 28th. So definitely a great pick for a summer reading book. All right, now we are going to move on to the Grand Central list, Grand Central Publishing list. And we have Night Objects, which is another debut novel. This one is more literary suspense. This is from an author named Eli Raphael. So if you're a fan of God of the Woods, Liz Moore, Rebecca Mackay's books, this one is definitely for you. In Night Objects, we have 15-year-old Lenny Winter, and she is moving from Miami with her parents to kind of an aging old houseboat off the coast of Washington, and she's, very excited for everything that's ahead. But soon after the move, tragedy strikes and her world is upended. She finds herself forced into an elite boarding school where she is totally lost. She is totally out of place. She's trying to navigate everything with a new school, with being away from home, navigate her own grief. Lenny is soon drawn into the school's secret society. It's a very dark and sinister group, definitely a lot of cruelty in this group, and eventually we end up with a murder. So it's a very thrilling and twisty read as you're trying to figure out what happened. But again, it's also beautifully written, a beautiful novel, and it really tackles grief and sort of a coming of age story on top of all these sort of more suspenseful elements as well. Yeah. So that's Night Objects. And now moving on to something a little different. But Tia Williams, we love Tia Williams at Grand Central. Tia is the New York Times bestselling author. She's back with a new romance. This is called The Misconnection, also out in June. You may be familiar with Tia from her book 7 Days in June, which was a Reese's Book Club pick. Also, her most recent novel was A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I feel like this book is world-renowned for its piano-gasm scene. Kind of, if you know, sort of scene. But all that to say that Tia's books are always intensely romantic. They are very, very sexy. They are for grown women. The Misconnection does not disappoint. So The Misconnection follows a woman named Sasha Cruz. She's a very busy casting agent. She really has no time to focus on her own relationships, and she is fine with that. That's the way she wants it. But all of that changes when she is seated next to a mystery man on a flight to Paris. He is just her type, and they hit it off, but they also have maybe a little too much champagne. Things get a little hazy, and after she lands in Paris, she realizes that they never exchanged numbers. She doesn't know his name, but she can't stop thinking about him. So she starts writing an email to her friend who works at the company, and she asks about the encounter, but in doing so, she actually accidentally emails her entire company. And one thing leads to another as kind of like an international manhunt kicks off to find this mystery seatmate. Everybody at the company is now like rooting for Sasha and trying to figure this out, and all sorts of interesting complications ensue. But this is great. Certainly, if you love Kennedy Ryan, if you love Emily Henry, this is a great romantic, sexy pick for summer, out June 9th. Okay. And then on to another author that I hope a lot of you, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. This is #1 New York Times bestselling author Lisa Scottolini. She's back with a new summer book called This Changes Everything. In This Changes Everything, we have Julia Pritzker. She is loving her new life. She is a wife and a new mother living in Tuscany. But she does one problem with her life in Tuscany, and there are not many, but she misses her best friend Courtney, who lives back in the States in Pennsylvania. So one night, Julia is on the phone with her friend Courtney when something unthinkable happens. Courtney walks into her grandmother's house and finds that her grandmother has been murdered. So Julia rushes home. She wants to be by her friend's side and help her figure out what happened. And in classic Lisa Scottolini fashion, this novel is full of twists. It will keep you guessing. You will be on the edge of your seat the whole time. What we love about Lisa Scottolini is she always brings a lot of authenticity and grit to her crime novels. And one thing in particular about this one that we love is just the way that she's writing about female friendship here. It is a really well-written relationship between Julia and Courtney. And I think that's something that anyone who picks this up is going to love about it. If you read Lisa's book from last summer, it was called The Unraveling of Julia, you will recognize some of the characters here, like Julia herself and her friend Courtney. But this is a completely standalone story. So you should read it if you love The Unraveling of Julia, but you absolutely do not need to have read it to enjoy This Changes Everything. And this will be out in July. Okay, and then last but not least, we have The Good Parts. So The Good Parts is another debut novel, and this is for anyone who loved One Day or novels from authors like Rebecca Searle. It's an epic romance with a speculative twist. So in The Good Parts, we have Rose and Landon, who meet in college and immediately fall for each other. We flash forward several years, and Landon receives a letter from Rose, and this is the woman he was planning to spend forever with. And he learns from her that their love affair is over. The story ends because Rose has chosen to take the pill, quote unquote, the pill, which in this case is a memory erasing treatment that is going to allow her to finally forget and leave behind grief that she's been dealing with, a traumatic past. But unfortunately, that also means that she's leaving behind him. And Landon really is devastated. He can't bear to lose the love of his life. And he thinks that if she fell for him once, well, she can fall for him again. And so he sets off after her to try and continue their story. The Good Parts is beautifully written. It's one of those novels that will make you laugh and sob. This is definitely one you will cry through, but you will also immediately want to talk about it with anyone else who has read it. So another great recommendation for summer. And that is what we have from Grand Central Publishing. I hope you guys pick up one or all of these, but we think that there's something here for every reader and that you will love them.
Amazing. I think The Good Part sounds, I love, yeah, it sounds like right down my alley. Thank you, Alexis, so much for joining us and for sharing those titles. They all sound wonderful. We have one not last but not least, of course, Madison is going to present from Penguin, Hogarth, and Random House. Thank you for joining us, Madison.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen here. Um, Okay. And as Randy explained, publishing companies are complicated. We have a lot of like sub imprints. So I work with Hogarth and Random House Books, which are under the Random House divisional umbrella, which is under Penguin Random House. So a lot of companies within companies. But here's a couple that we're excited for. The first is Famesick by Lena Dunham. This is her second book, first book since Not That Kind of Girl. We love Lena. We love to have a new book from her. When she started writing this book, she had been out of rehab for 30 days. And the writing process took her the next 7 years of her life. So this book essentially covers the years from 2010 through 2020, which is in a decade where, Lena's life changed quite a bit. Her relationship with Hollywood changed. She was very ill during this period. So the book really covers this idea of illness as a teacher, as a body, as kind of a tattletale. And also our societal relationship to women on the edge. And it also really talks about, Lena's relationship with Hollywood, how she is sort of on the outside looking in. And as always, Lena is writing about herself, but she's also writing about you. June Baby, one that I'm personally really excited about. Random House is doing something very cool, which is that we are collaborating with Thousand Voices, which is Jenna Bush Hager's company. So we're essentially publishing books alongside Jenna and her team. And Jenna obviously, helps pick the books. So if you're a fan of Read with Jenna, these books are kind of in that vein. This debut novel, which Ellen Hildebrand called The Book of the Summer, it's about a young woman who is kind of reckoning with love and grief and coming of age. It starts out when she's 17. She's taken to this place called Block Island, which is a real island off the coast of Rhode Island, in the wake of her mother's death, and she's basically dropped off at this random woman's house because her dad just like can't deal with it. And the woman's name is Diana Beckett, and she turns out to be a famous photographer, and had been friends with the main character's mother. We kind of flash forward to see the main character, Ruth, when she is 27, and after Diana's death, she once again returns to Block Island, and she's sort of reckoning with this lost love, with grief, with all these secrets that Diana had been keeping from her. So it's a very summer novel, very nostalgic. If you like The Summer I Turned Pretty, it has like whiffs of that. It's kind of like a literary version of that. Next up, we have Country People by Daniel Mason. You may know Daniel Mason from the book Northwoods, which was all over the place the past 2 years. Northwoods was really like critically acclaimed. Daniel has been known to be called one of America's greatest living writers. This book, similar to Northwoods, has this very like country setting, but it's about a family who is this like California family who moves to Vermont, and the main character is the husband. It's a husband, wife, and two kids, and this husband has been working on his PhD in Russian literature for like 10 years. He can't seem to commit to anything. He and his wife are kind of like at their wits' end with each other. But as they move to Vermont, they meet these kind of like crazy cast of characters. They get involved in this wild local legend. And it's really like one of those novels where place is a character. It's very joyful and happy. It's literary fiction, but there's a lot of like humor to it as well. Then we have Famous Men by Julie Bunton. Julie is the author of Marlena, which is one of my personal favorite novels of all time. And this is her first book since Marlena. This book is about a young woman who is from this like middle of nowhere town in Michigan. And in her town, there is this famous writer who is from there. And this young girl basically becomes convinced that this man is her long lost father, and she follows him to New York. He's not her dad, but she quickly becomes embroiled in the like New York art scene. She also begins a relationship with this man, and she kind of models her whole life after him, and then she sort of starts to see through the cracks in his facade. It's very much like a Me Too novel. It's about ambition, parenthood, children, and really about the way that women still pay for men's mistakes and how to kind of carve out a life in the wake of that. So. Then we have Sunrise by the wonderful Tia Obrecht, who is the author of The Tiger's Wife, Inland, and The Morning Side. It's this crazy kaleidoscopic time-spanning mystery. It follows three different narratives across the century into a single escalating novel. It begins with a plane crash survivor who stumbles into an abandoned Wyoming town and unfolds through braided timelines, each revealing fragments that reframe the others. So every thread kind of complicates what came before it. It's a very kind of unique storytelling style, and it's very unputdownable, and you will not guess the ending. Come Undone. This is by Eddie Huang, who you may know from the book Fresh Off the Boat, which was also a comedy series. He is also the chef and founder of Bauhaus. And this is this very like darkly comedic, funny story about this man named Hubie, who is this globe-trotting food host. He's famous. He kind of treats relationships like his own personal tasting menu. He never wants to delve into anything too serious. And then he meets a woman named Anastasia, who is equally detached, and emotionally evasive. And he sort of has met her match with her. The novel is really about a man-child who is forced to finally take something seriously, and it really goes into modern dating and masculinity. in this like performance of coastal cool. So I think it's kind of like a chaotic, self-aware romance for people who like love stories who are that are just like a little bit unhinged. And last but not least, we have Liar's Dice. This is another book that we're doing with Thousand Voices. So again, something that's being published with Jenna Bush Hager. It's a really beautifully written debut about a teenage girl in 1970s Brazil who is torn away from her twin sister. It's really about coming of age in a sort of volatile political climate. It's about family secrets, really a lovely sisterhood story, and it's gotten some great praise. You can see Cisnerno, sorry, has praised it. Jodi Picoult, Junot Diaz, Charmaine Wilkerson have all come out and said that they love this book. So I think you all will love it as well. Those are kind of our top books that I wanted to present tonight. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you all enjoyed them as much as I did.
Thank you, Madison. Thank you for going last.
No
Um,
problem.
I love the Lena Dunham. I'm so curious.
Yes.
All right. So that wraps up all of our publishers and our Anne Marie from Get Read PR. Thank you all for joining us. The really great news is that all of our publishers and agencies have been very, very generous. And so if you are here tonight and you fill out this lovely form, which we're going to, there you go, Valerie's put the link there. You will all get a copy of a book. I cannot promise which book because with the publishers, there are certain rules about mailing to which countries they can mail to. So you will get a book. And you're welcome to put if you have a preference, but there's no guarantee because actually some books we don't even have and some we have a lot of. So you will get a copy of one of the books, but you won't know until it arrives. So there's the link again. And I know Jackie said, so many great books, so little time. I need a lottery win. Well, this time you don't because you're going to get it for free. So it's actually a physical book going to be mailed to you. So make sure you fill that out. And I thank everybody. I thank all of the presenters tonight for joining us. I will be in touch. Will you be able to send out a list of all the books presented? I could do that. Yes, I could do that so that everybody can put these on your to be read list because I have this recording. So that would be something we could do for sure. Jill's asking the other link. Are you asking for this, Jill? Repost the other links. I'm not sure which other links you're talking about. All right. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to keep this open just to make sure that everybody has that link. But thank you so much. It was a wonderful evening with you all.